tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, or next week, or when things finally calm down. It's not that you don't want the dream. You can see it. The promotion, the degree, the book you've been talking about for years. You've tasted it in daydreams, so vivid you could swear they were memories. And yet, when the moment comes to move, to risk, to step forward, you hesitate. You scroll. You clean the kitchen. You find reasons why today isn't the day. The world calls it laziness, but that's not what's happening here. Deep down, your mind isn't trying to ruin you. It's protecting you from something it believes is worse than failure. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of the time, when you sabotage yourself, you're not fighting your weaknesses. You're fighting your own potential. Because once you reach for it, once you say, "I'm going to try," the game changes. You've just made a promise you might not be able to keep. And suddenly, you have something you could truly lose. In the 1970s, psychologists Edward Jones and Stephen Berglas studied a strange pattern among high achievers. They noticed that when some people were given a difficult task and told their performance would be judged, they would, bizarrely, make choices that hurt their chances of success. One famous experiment offered participants a choice between two pills before a test, one that would improve performance and one that would impair it. You'd think the answer was obvious, but many chose the harmful pill. Why? Because if they failed, they could blame the pill, not themselves. This is self-handicapping, the unconscious creation of obstacles to protect your ego. It's a shield, not against pain in the present, but against the crushing weight of what failure would mean about you. If you never try fully, you never have to confront the possibility that you're not enough. You've felt this before. Maybe in high school, you waited until the night before a project was due. If you got an A, you could tell yourself you were a genius for doing it in one night. If you failed, well, you just didn't have enough time. The truth was safer buried under an excuse. But here's the twist most of us never see. Self-sabotage isn't always about protecting ourselves from failure. Sometimes it's about protecting ourselves from success. It sounds absurd. Why would you fear the very thing you've been chasing? But think about what success demands. If you get the promotion, expectations rise. If your book sells, people will want a second one. If you win, you've got something to lose. Success doesn't just raise your status, it raises the stakes. In 1978, psychologist Martina Horner introduced what she called the fear of success motive. Her research revealed that for many people, especially in competitive or public arenas, achievement was tangled with anxiety. Success threatened to disrupt relationships, challenge identities, and expose them to scrutiny. Imagine training your whole life for a race, and then realizing the finish line is also the starting line of an even harder race you never agreed to run. You may not realize it, but your brain keeps a silent ledger. On one side, the rewards of succeeding. On the other, the costs. More responsibility, more pressure, more eyes on you. And if that second column starts to outweigh the first, you'll start slowing yourself down without even knowing why. Picture a tightrope walker halfway across. The crowd is holding its breath. She's steady, poised, one step after another. But as she nears the end, she feels the dizzying truth. Reaching the platform doesn't mean safety. It means turning around and doing it again, this time with more people watching. Her foot hesitates. The rope wobbles. We think our dreams are finish lines. In reality, they're invitations to bigger risks, deeper exposure, and heavier responsibility. And part of you might not be ready for that. That's why sometimes you quit just before things get real. That's why you pull back after a taste of momentum. Because if you don't finish, you never have to face what comes after. But here's the danger. Self-sabotage hides in reasonable disguises. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right moment, doing more research, not rushing things. It feels responsible, thoughtful, strategic. But beneath the surface, it's the same old bargain. If I hold back now, I won't have to find out what happens if I'm not enough later. And if you think you're immune, ask yourself this. How many times have you been on the edge of a breakthrough and found yourself suddenly busy with something else? How many times have you walked away from an open door because stepping through would mean no turning back? The mind is clever. It will protect you from perceived danger at all costs, even if that danger is simply being seen. And maybe the most unsettling part is this. Sometimes we'd rather be trapped in the frustration of almost than face the uncertainty of actually, because almost is safe. It's full of potential. It can't disappoint you yet. The question is, how long can you live in almost before it becomes a prison? And that's where the real work begins. Because you can't out-hustle a defense system you don't understand. Pushing harder just makes the alarm louder. You have to learn its language, the way it whispers "not yet" and makes it sound like wisdom. And here's the disorienting part. Sometimes it is wisdom. Not every pause is sabotage. In creative work, strategic delay can help ideas incubate. Stepping away lets your mind recombine pieces you couldn't force together. You've felt that. The shower epiphany, the solution that arrives only after you stop staring at the screen. A break can be a tool. So the question shifts from, am I procrastinating? To, what is this delay buying me? Relief or clarity? Avoidance or incubation? If the pause opens your vision, it's a craft choice. If it closes your world, it's a shield. Underneath that distinction lives a conflict Kurt Lewin mapped decades ago. Approach avoidance. The closer you get to a goal, the stronger two forces pull, the allure of the reward and the fear of the cost. Crucially, the avoidance force grows faster. That's why the tightrope wobbles not at the start, but when the platform is within reach. You feel it at the send button, the audition door, the last 3 pages. Your body reads the proximity as danger and pumps you full of second thoughts. Now layer in the goal gradient effect. In the 1930s, Clark Hull noticed rats sprinting faster as they neared the food. Humans do it too. You work harder when the stamp card is 1 punch away, when the progress bar turns from gray to bright. But success isn't just a prize. It's a threshold. As the gradient pulls you forward, fear throws down marbles. That's when we start choosing distractions that feel like duties. We reorganize the project folder. We call it preparation. Really, it's ballast, something to hold you in place while the platform inches closer. Here's a story you know in your bones. You're invited to present at a conference. It's the opportunity you swore you wanted. The room, the lights, the faces you want to respect you. You say yes. Then the week arrives. Suddenly, your apartment needs a deep clean. You rewrite the first paragraph 19 times. You convince yourself a new template will change everything. The slides get prettier, the talk gets smaller. The day before, you consider emailing to reschedule. Your mind is protecting you from being seen, not because you're lazy, because being seen is risk. The engine driving that risk feels invisible until you name it, the story you carry about what success says about you. Carol Dweck spent years studying how beliefs about talent shape behavior. Praise a kid for being smart, and many will start avoiding hard tasks that could puncture that identity. Praise them for effort, and they seek challenge. Fixed mindset versus growth mindset is more than a slogan. It's a quiet operating system. If success equals you are gifted, then every attempt is an identity test. Safer to stall. Safer to choose the impairing pill, the all-nighter, the excuse. Because if you do it under perfect conditions and still fall short, what's left of smart? Then there's the phenomenon that haunts high achievers in particular, imposterism. Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes named it in the late 1970s, but you've probably felt it without a label. The conviction that your wins were luck, timing, other people's generosity. So you over-prepare to the point of paralysis, or you undercut yourself preemptively, because failure would confirm what you secretly know. It's a paradox. The more competence you build, the more evidence you have that people are mistaken about you. And so you create a cushion, a reason they can point to if you slip. I didn't have time. I was sick. I changed direction. Anything but... It was me. Add one more ingredient: loss aversion. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky showed that losses feel heavier than gains. Success looks like gain, but your mind scans for the losses it might activate. Loss of anonymity, of old roles, of certain relationships, of the comfort of not being the one people expect miracles from. The potential costs cast longer shadows than the possible wins cast light. So you dim your own momentum until the room feels familiar again. A thought experiment. 2 doors. Behind door A is a steady life, decent income, minimal scrutiny, no major leaps. Behind door B is a life with higher highs, more creative control, greater impact. But if you miss, your failure is public, and you'll have to rebuild with everyone watching. Which door do you choose today? Not in theory. Today with your actual nervous system. Watch what your stomach does. Feel how quickly your mind drafts briefs for the defense. Another story. A songwriter's first single goes viral. Millions of plays, interviews. For a month, she feels invincible. Then she opens a blank session to write the follow-up. Her hands won't move. She rereads every line and hears a chorus of invisible judges. She starts hanging fairy lights in the studio, reorganizing cables, buying a new interface. Friends call it dialing in the vibe. She calls it process. But under the twinkle and the tech is fear. Anything less than a masterpiece will shrink the myth of who she is now. Sabotage arrives carrying a clipboard labeled standards. You've probably noticed the trap. The more you value the thing, the more your mind guards you from touching it. That protection isn't mean. It's loyal to an older contract you wrote without knowing. Keep me safe from humiliation. Keep me loved. Keep me the same person in the mirror. The contract never promised you'd be alive in the way you crave. It promised you'd be untouched. And there is a counterpoint worth honoring. Sometimes the drag you feel isn't fear. It's misfit. Self-sabotage can mimic wisdom, yes, but wisdom can also mimic sabotage. If every step toward a goal drains you in a way rest can't fix, if your dream requires you to amputate values you treasure, your nervous system may be telling you the pursuit is a bad map. Not every resistance is an enemy. Some are boundaries. The work, then, is not to bulldoze everything in your path, but to differentiate. Anxiety from conscience, risk from self-betrayal. When you don't make that distinction, you either martyr yourself on someone else's goal or call cowardice what is actually care. So how do you tell? Listen to the texture. Fear of success feels like a tightening when visibility rises, a sudden urgency to tinker with things that won't matter in the room. Misfit feels like chronic depletion long before anyone is watching. One shrinks you around the moment of being known. The other hollows you over months. One wants to escape the stage. The other wants to change the venue. We're building toward a turn now, a reframe that starts to weaken the old contract. But it won't come from shaming yourself into discipline. Shame is gasoline for the very fire you're trying to put out. It's another way to protect the identity at all costs. If I punish myself hard enough, I'll never risk this pain again. That only makes avoidance smarter. There's another way. It starts with making the danger explicit. Not the danger of failing the task, but the danger your mind believes success will trigger. Name the costs out loud. Responsibility, envy, higher expectations, being seen as the type of person who must now deliver at that level forever. You don't conquer monsters you refuse to look at. You invite them into the light where their edges are less mythic. And then, and this is the hinge, you alter what success means about you. If every attempt keeps grading your worth will keep hiding. But if you change the terms of the test, the alarm has nothing left to scream. The path won't be comfortable. It might never be. Comfort was the currency of the old contract. What replaces it is sturdier. We'll step into that contract next. For now, feel the wobble at the edge of the platform, the twin forces pulling. Not because you're broken, because you're close. So we rewrite the contract, not with bravado, but with a pen that tells the truth. The old one said, "Keep me safe from humiliation at all costs." The new one says, "Keep me aligned with what I value, even when eyes are on me." There is a difference. One worships comfort, the other serves meaning. There's a way to make that shift stick, not just sound poetic. Claude Steele's work on self-affirmation found that when people reflect briefly on a core value before a threat, they become less defensive and more open to feedback. 2 minutes. A sentence or two about why you prize honesty or curiosity or love. It looks soft. It's not. It tells your nervous system, my worth lives in something larger than this single performance. Suddenly, success can't hold your identity hostage. The stakes drop to human size. You can breathe. And breathing matters because of another curve that has been quietly pushing you off the rope. Yerkes Dodson. Too little arousal, you're bored and sluggish. Too much, you're jittery and clumsy. You've been trying to perform at redline. No wonder your hands shake at the send button. A pre-performance ritual, a walk, a page of messy warm-up writing, a box breathing count, is not self-indulgence. It's calibration. You are moving yourself toward the middle of the curve where skill can show. Still, calibration without structure leaves room for the old alarms to improvise. This is where Peter Gollwitz's implementation intentions become surgical. You don't argue with avoidance, you root it. If then plans turn fog into rails. If I open the dock and reach for my phone, then I set a 5-minute timer and write one ugly paragraph. If I feel the urge to reformat slides, then I practice the first 2 minutes out loud instead. These are not motivational quotes. They are levers. The mind wants an exit. You give it a door that leads through the work instead of around it. Pair that with mental contrasting. Gabriele Oettingen's WOOP approach. Wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. You picture the real finish, feel why it matters, and then you name the brick in the road most likely to trip you today. Not in general. Today. You don't shame the brick, you plan for its texture. The act of naming shrinks it from myth to material. Watch how this plays in a life. The songwriter returns to her studio. The fairy lights are still there. They don't need to be an enemy. She opens a new session and writes on an index card. Value. Craft over image. I care about honest lines more than flawless reception. Her shoulders drop. Yerkes Dodson slides from red to amber. Then the if-then. If I stall on verse 1, then I record a 60-second voice memo of nonsense melody to push air through the pipe. When the stall arrives, it always arrives, she follows the card, not her panic. After that, one whoop. Wish, a rough chorus by 2 p.m. Outcome, relief, a foothold. Obstacle, checking analytics. Plan. Phone goes in the kitchen for 1 hour. The chorus shows up crooked. Good. Crooked is handleable. Mythic is not. You can do the same in smaller, safer rooms. That's another fix we rarely grant ourselves. Graded exposure. Joseph Wolpe's insight from behavior therapy was simple and radical. You reduce fear by approaching the stimulus in steps your body can tolerate. If being seen is the monster, you don't start with a stadium. You start by sharing a rough draft with one person who wants you to win. Then 3. Then a room of 10. Visibility grows while the story, I die when they look at me, dies first. The brain updates. The rope steadies. Underneath these techniques sits a deeper engine. Motivation goes rotten when it's hijacked by threats to autonomy, competence, or connection. Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory. You sabotage when success looks like a cage someone else locks, a test you can only fail, or a spotlight that isolates you. So design your pursuit to feed those needs. Choose goals with verbs you own, not roles you think will finally make you legitimate. Build competence by counting practices, not praise. Keep a circle that sees the you under the outcome, so the stage doesn't sever you from your people. The alarms quiet when they feel you won't abandon yourself to chase a crown. Here's the climactic turn, the thing that changes the texture of every choice that follows. You were never afraid of success. You were afraid of what you believed success meant about you. You thought it would lock you into an image, raise the floor of expectation until you had nowhere to rest, turn love into a performance review. The mind sabotaged to keep you from that fate. But meaning is not a verdict handed down by strangers. It is a covenant you write with your values, renewed in action. Success is not a costume. It's a capacity, one you can grow without surrendering your face. A thought experiment. One more time. Tomorrow morning, you receive exactly what you say you want. The offer, the platform, the book deal. Before you answer, you write 2 paragraphs. First, what won't change about me if this happens? Name 3 non-negotiables. Second, what tiny practices make those non-negotiables visible in the new landscape? A weekly dinner with the friend who doesn't care about your follower count. Keeping the first 30 minutes of every workday for skill, not email. Saying, I don't know, faster when you don't. Read it out loud. This is how you teach your nervous system that success expands your life instead of erasing it. Will the sabotage vanish? No. Alarms don't retire. They get bored when you stop believing their prophecies. Some weeks you'll mistake wisdom for fear. Some weeks you'll bulldoze a boundary and pay for it. Systems are not magic, and the world is not fair. Some rooms punish visibility, some ladders are rotten. That's real. The answer isn't to pretend safety doesn't matter. It's to choose when risk is a price worth paying for a life you recognize as yours. So take the next visible inch, not the cinematic leap, the inch that makes you seen by one more person than yesterday. Do the value note, run one if-then. 1 WOOP. Calibrate the curve and step while your hands still hum. Measure the day by promises kept to your practice, not applause gathered. Count the pages, the reps, the rooms you entered trembling and left standing. Send the email that commits you to a date with a deliverable and a human witness. Then go back to the bench and make the thing a little less crooked. When the voice returns, what if they expect this from you forever? What if you can't sustain it? Answer like this. Then I will adjust. Then I will rest. Then I will say no. And I will still be me. That sentence is a key. It opens a door your sabotage has been guarding for years. What happens next is quieter than triumph and more durable. You learn to feel the wobble and move anyway. You learn that being seen is survivable, that responsibility can be shared, that pressure is a tide you can meet with a stance and a breath. You learn that your potential is not a cliff, it's a coastline. You don't jump. You walk it, one visible inch at a time, letting the horizon widen without losing your feet. And if, at the edge of the platform, the rope trembles again, you already know why. Not because you're broken, because you're alive enough to matter. Step. We're building a room where fairy lights are optional and honesty is the vibe. Craft over image, value over verdict. Add your inch below. What sentence goes on your card this week, and what tiny risk will make it real? If this helped steady your step, like it so the circle widens, and then walk with us into the next chapter, where we turn the alarms into background noise. Your move, right here. What contract are you rewriting before tonight ends?